So with you, I was slightly taken back when I first listened to your album because I was waiting for the lyrics.
Right.
So I'm there listening to, I've downloaded and I'm listening to Hello World, your latest EP album.
That album, yeah.
And I was like, where's the lyrics?
Right.
And then I found myself that I'm discovering a different style of a musician here because I'm so used to rappers and singers.
Of course.
So it made me think, you don't have the lyrical melody in your head. So what does Matt do to get the flow of the beat?
Okay.
What does Matt do to match the drum set or the audio that he's trying to make in his head? Because if I'm singing a melody, let's say before making the beat, I can sometimes imagine where I would want the beat to be, where the high notes. So, but when there's no lyrics there, how do you
do that? So I guess the music I'm making is built upon many years and generations of heritage in the jazz world.
Wow.
Which is fundamentally Black American music. And I grew up sort of listening to jazz records and jazz musicians where they would play with others, sometimes by themselves, but mostly with other band members. And they were creating instrumental music. Of course, there were like singers, Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan, Frank Sinatra, who came later, not particularly later, but who added lyrics to already popular jazz songs. So the jazz heritage is predominantly instrumental music, and I guess I'm kind of doing my own version of that today. And so to go to your question, when I'm writing music, for Hello World specifically, I basically started each of those songs on the piano, so no beats, and they just began as sketches, almost like if you were a painter or,
a rough at the beginning.
Draft. It's just sketches. And I'm always driven by melody, funnily enough. Whilst I'm not actually thinking of lyrics, I'll often sing what I'm hearing and translate that into the top line on the piano. And then there are infinite ways to then colour each of those melody notes, if you will.
Do you hum things to yourself? And do you play little like bum bum bum? Like,
it's all
because I've seen because for
all
those
the time.
For those that don't know, Matt has a YouTube channel,
right? Yeah,
and you're active on social media anyway, and you have a lot of videos teaching people how to make notes.
Yeah,
and I'm not going to try and replicate it, but because I can't even remember the name of some of the notes that you play. So what are your favorite notes for a musician listening? What notes are most repeated in your instrumentals?
Well, I mean, there's probably no favorites, but there are maybe some chords that I use a lot, or at least I often think about music as in color. And say if you had a melody note, let's say D, there are infinite ways to color that note to give a totally different feeling. So you've got a palette almost, like to keep on the visual art analogy. So you've got like major chords, minor chords, you've got like dominant chords, and then like dominant altered chords and diminished chords and half diminished chords. And to me, all of these sort of codes, if you will, they're basically just colors. And so if you had a melody note D, you could play that in so many different ways and in different combinations to basically express yourself. And there are certain colors that I use a lot that I think are characteristic of the way I see the world and feel, basically, and like to express myself. So, yeah.
Okay, very interesting. Believe in Things. That was released when?
That was 2021 in about April.
That was an EP?
That was an EP, yeah. That was my first project that I put together under my name, Matt Wilde, which is just my real name. Yeah, and that came off the back of a period of like lockdown that we were all in.
Yes.
And the way that I dealt with that period of time was just writing music. And that's when I started sharing. So I've always written music, Lazo. I've always written music, pretty much every day.
But when you say written music, I know listeners are listening and they're thinking lyrics, but you're not saying that, are you?
No, I'm thinking piano, drums, bass, beats. Yeah. So making beats every day might be a better description, actually.
Yeah.
And I've always worked with other artists to realize their sound. I think that's kind of the role that I like playing. I like being a bit behind the scenes and helping you sound good. You know what I mean? But when we were in lockdown, I think, it was a shift in, it was a shift in pace, a shift in structure and routine. And so I started sharing videos on Instagram, basically beat making videos. And I think just more and more people started getting onto them and like messaging me or commenting on those videos. And then I had a few messages from people who were working with record labels asking me, where's your music? We've been enjoying these videos. Like, have you considered releasing music? And I hadn't really, under my own name. And then had a really lovely conversation and built a relationship with the founder of Deep Matter Records. And he gave me a lot of encouragement to put out that project and supported me on that journey, really, to, I guess, be vulnerable enough to share my first project.
It's not easy.
It's not easy. And so that's how that came about, really. It was like a particular time during lockdown, making videos as a way of documenting what I was doing.
Share your craft with the world.
I mean, I started making videos to literally just document what I was doing as a way of just kind of, just having a bit of a archive of the things I was working on, because I wasn't releasing music. I wasn't thinking of myself as a solo artist at that time. And I just wanted to be able to say, that might sound mad, but I would often be asked by friends, so what have you been working on? And having a video, I could show you, for example, if you asked me that question, I could say, check out these tracks I've been making.
And that's easier and better understanding for someone who isn't in your industry.
Right.
Because they see what you're making, they see how you're making it, and it's easier for them to engage.
Right. And I mean, I didn't really know that at the time. I learned that as time went on a bit.
Because we're such visual communicators as well. Like if you tell a random person, these are the notes I play on my keyboard, they're thinking the most basic way. Keyboard, it's a black key and then a white key, and then it just clicks it.
Yeah.
And they're probably thinking, those big keyboards that people play with their feet and stuff in stores. And my point being, once you show, people visualize, understand better, and you inspire. Because now it looks like, look at what Matt's doing. It's so fun. And he's just, because your videos as well, what I've noticed is, on the bottom, 20% of it, you have the keys. And you highlight what's being played. So for me, who's someone not familiar with your craft, I engage better with your videos when I can see what you're doing.
I love that. I love that.
Good feedback.
Yeah, thank you.
Matt Wilde on YouTube. Like and subscribe.
Thank you. Cheers for the plug. I mean, look, I think that's really great. Yeah.
So I noticed, I've got a couple of points, but here's the most important one. And I just realized it was important now. Check this out.
Yeah.
You released or started to make those videos during lockdown.
Yeah.
I officially released my first episode of the podcast during lockdown.
Yeah.
My last guest, Charisma, who works for Louis Vuitton as an architect, she started to engage on social media during lockdown.
Yeah.
My point being, lockdown seemed to be a time where creatives thrived because there was minimal, there was a big distraction. It was a pandemic. But there was minimal existing distractions like work, schedules, having to keep up with a social life, things that might sometimes take away from the mind of a creative, because now we have all the time in the world to just sit in a room and make music. And no one in your family is going to say, Matt, why are you spending 10 hours a day making music?
Right.
Because in this abnormal time, which lockdown was, it made the creative, impulsive, repetitive behavior of a creative normal.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Validated almost.
Creatives can be ridiculed, for their excessive, obsessive passion, but then how long it takes for them to make it. But when there is no outside distraction of why are you doing that craft 10 hours a day that isn't bringing in any money, you can just focus. Do you see what I'm trying to say?
100%.
Like, I feel like you could be a lawyer, you could be a doctor, you can be an architect, and there's a path there, and then you start making money.
Yeah.
You can be a creative, and it can be difficult to stay on track, but there's no one there to nudge you and tell you you're wasting your time, and all you can do is just be in a room and make music. Do you see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
Lockdown was almost a great thing for us creatives.
Yeah.
It was just, I can do whatever I want, no opinions, and everyone was at home. They had all the time in the world to take in content. So I don't know about you, but I also feel like during that time period, my views were almost higher. Even though it was early days of the podcast.
Yeah.
Because people were more at home.
Yeah.
They had time to take in more. Whereas now we're all back to our busy life schedules, and people are now listening to our content at their leisure.
Yeah.
More than because they need something to fill the day.
Yeah. It's really interesting. One thing that I've thought about as a result of that period of time is, because I've also spoken to a lot of people in different fields, not just creatives, who started new businesses, gave more time to their passion projects. As a result of that period of time was a catalyst for them to branch off and do something new, whether that's open a business or start that consultancy they always wanted to, or work in PR and work freelance because that's always been their passion, or like myself, making beats and music or podcasting. I often think that, imagine a world where us as human beings had the permission to be able to work long and hard on the thing that gets us out of bed in the morning.
Yes.
Over a fixed period of time, 2, 3, 4 years, let's say, which is a good amount of time, to be able to be dedicated to your passion and the thing that you want to share with the world. I sometimes think, imagine a world where we had permission to do that without the catastrophe of a lockdown or pandemic or, these sorts of things.
Yeah.
But imagine a world where there was some way in which we were supported to do that as human beings, because whilst that's an investment up front, sure, I might just be making music indefinitely, never make money from it, let's say, but given enough time and passion, when the two collide, I think that often leads to great things. And so, yeah, I don't know. I just wondered what your thoughts were on that.
I'm going to clip that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. You worded it better than me. I genuinely felt like I was waffling for a
No, not at all. No, what you were saying kind of made me think that. Imagine like a radically different society